Hello there.
Hello.
Hi, Carlo. Hello,
Hi, how are
everybody.
you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Sounds good. Yeah, it's good with me.
Very good, very good. Nice to have you here again, and very nice to have everybody on all platforms. I'm really happy to see you, and I hope that you enjoyed yesterday's show, and that you will enjoy today's session even more. Let me just start by sharing the screen. Let's see. So the right one. Okay, Carlo, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Fantastic, fantastic. So today, as you know, is Tuesday, 18th of July, and we are on the second day of our 5 days bootcamp. Yesterday, we had some nice time, and we went through some basics about Azure IoT, and we even created a small project together, which luckily everything worked well from the first try, also, which doesn't happen very often, actually. So it's nice that it happened now. And today we are ready for a little bit more advanced things. But before that, let us thank once again the Azure Skåne community, which offers us the possibility to run this event, Carl and I. And the Azure Skåne community is a community located in the southern part of Sweden, Europe. As you can see here, that's where we are, actually. And we usually have sessions related to Azure, and we gather physically at Slakthuset here in Malmö, where we are guests of the Foo Hotel, Foo Cafe, and also sometimes not that often actually now after the pandemic we have digital events such as today's event. Now, if you want to come in contact with the Azure Skåne community, then you can do it by using those links. You can find the community on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube as well. And if you want to speak your voice, then please use the hashtag Azure Skåne. Now, you that are attending this session, and if you often attend Azure sessions, you might be interested on this learner badge. This is just a token of appreciation that you can collect by taking up your mobile and scanning this QR code. And then if you already have a wallet, you can add it there, or you can create a new wallet. And then when we gather in conferences, then you can compare the number of badges that you have collected with the other attendees. It is a nice icebreaker. Some people love to collect them, and I am one of them. Now, for today's agenda, or actually, before going through the agenda, Carlo, would you mind to say a few words about you? Who are you?
Yeah, so my name is Carlo Goretti, and I'm working at Helo here in Malmö. So I'm working as a backend and cloud engineer, especially in Azure, and also with Nikos.
Yes, and my name is Nikos Telis. I also work at Hello, just like Carlo, and I work as a cloud architect, and I also do some development, of course. I will always be a developer, I guess, at heart. And of course, I work mostly with backend and architecture, and Azure is the cloud service provider of my choice. So, enough about us. Let's talk about today. Today we are going to take a deeper dive in and maybe show how we can present data. Now, once again, a disclaimer: we do not do this very often. Some technical difficulties may arise. We do not promise that everything is going to work smoothly. And of course, we are using the cheapest tiers on every service that we can to keep the costs low, which might cause delays and stuff like that. But finger crossed, everything will work smoothly like yesterday. Then tomorrow's agenda will be disclosed, and on Thursday we are going to have an Ask Me Anything session with Maria Anastasia Mustaka, Microsoft MVP within Azure IoT. And on day 5, we're going to have a small summary of what we did and what we learned, and maybe an after work with a beer or two. So, Carlo, let's summarize quickly. What did we do yesterday? What kind of project did we do yesterday?
Yeah, so since we don't have a real sensor which we can use for this IoT project, we created an emulator for the sensors. Yeah, which can generate temperature data, which we can stream to the Azure IoT hub.
Yes.
And then, yeah.
Yeah, from there, an Azure function is picking those messages or events using an event grid in the background. And if the temperature was over a threshold, I think it was 22 degrees, then it would ask a logic app to send an email. And today, so this worked smoothly. Now, this only picked one temperature at a time. Today, we thought that we could make it a little bit more complex and a little bit more fun. So yesterday, we wanted to be alarmed if the temperature got too hot. And today, we want to have a nice overview over all the temperatures, maybe over time, to see what is going on, how is let's say that this sensor is sitting on an engine or something. How does the engine feel? Do we have any weird values, or does it have pretty much stable temperature and stuff like that? And to do that, we are going to use a few different tools. The sensor has been manipulated a little bit by Carlo. You will show us in a minute or so what has happened to that. But it's still sending data to the Azure IoT hub. And then instead of an Azure function and instead of using the event topic, we are using a stream analytics job. Don't worry, we will explain everything about it. This is the main subject of today's session. And from there, we output data in a PostgreSQL database, which is used as a data source for a Grafana dashboard. And as I said, those last two parts are not really a piece of cake to set up, but everything worked at least before the session. So hopefully they will work during the session as well. Carlo, would you mind sharing your screen and showing us the sensor? How is it running and how is the code behind?
Yeah, I will take over and let's see.
Let's see.
Can you see my screen?
I can. If anybody can write in the comments, if you can read the code, that would be really helpful. I believe the code is readable. Yeah, let's go on. I think it's fine. So what is it? What kind of application is it?
Yeah, well, this one is an emulator for a weather sensor or a temperature sensor. If we go through this, we have a method here which generates a random value between 20 and 25. So it generates a random temperature, which is a decimal, and then it returns it to the actual caller of the method. So what we do here is that a little bit lower here, we have a timer. So yesterday we had it on, I think it was 1 minute maybe, or even smaller. So we have a timer that every
we
time
had 5 seconds, I think.
Oh, it was so fast.
Yeah, so often. Yeah.
So every 5 seconds we generated a new temperature, which we got here, and then we called it, sent it to Azure, to our Azure IoT hub with this method. So if we go here, we have this send to Azure async method, which takes a message as an input parameter. And what this does is that it takes the message that you're sending in and creates a Azure client message, so Azure can parse it. And we we have also done it so we can retry if we maybe something gets wrong or something
Yeah.
happens on the
You
way
have it
up
in
to
a
Azure.
do while loop that's
Yeah,
handling the retries. Yeah. And
and
how
otherwise,
easy is to create a client which we're going to use to send the messages?
sorry,
How easy is to create a device client object, the one you use to send the messages in row 36?
in
I
row
think you
36,
created row 36 up there.
36, yeah, here.
Yeah, the device client,
So
that one here.
yeah, so we created
What
it
do we need?
upper here.
Yeah, exactly.
So all we need is we need to add the NuGet packages or the libraries from Azure or more precise Microsoft. And we also need an IoT Hub connection string, which we get from the upsetting.json file. So with this, we can create a device client which can send messages to the actual IoT Hub. And I don't know, Nikos, do you think I missed something?
I think you covered it. Yeah, the methods. An important thing to mention there about the methods is that it has to be a byte array, as you do in row 26 at the end of the line, where you had the actual message is a double. And now for this example, you're creating on the fly an object which you serialize into JSON, and we will show it what it looks like later. And then you get the bytes out of it, and you put it in a message, which you then send via the client. So if I might share my screen now, let's see. Don't worry, I will zoom in. Now, hopefully this is readable. Okay. So Carlo has been sending messages for the past a few minutes or so, and it really works fine. As you can see, I have been receiving the messages today, and I have one device constantly connected. Now, this is of course not a real device; it is a virtual device, the one that Carlo has created. And you are still sending messages, aren't you? You haven't stopped?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
That's good. So now the thing is that what are we going to use to display those temperatures as well as maybe the timestamp that we got those temperatures on a tool that is good for presentation. And I know that a few tools come to mind. Many people use Power BI. We have successfully tested Grafana for today's session. Now, the thing with Power BI is that you have to have a work account. So you need such a license to create Power BI. And we didn't really want to use our work emails. So everything we do here is with our private emails. So we wanted to find an easier solution. So we found Grafana. And from the little things I know, the few things I know, Grafana is a pretty nice little thing. And you can create some nice dashboards here. And this is what we're going to do. But how are the data going to go to Grafana? Now, as you can see here, we're going to use those two things in the middle. So somehow we're going to get the data from the IoT Hub, where Carlo is sending them, and we want them to go to Postgres SQL. And then Grafana can pick them from Postgres without any issues. So the thing that we're going to use to pick the data is called the Stream Analytics job. So let's go on and create one. Stream Analytics job. So it's called, and this is the one. It's like a wavy thingy. Please let me know if the text is still too little. I'll be happy to zoom in more, but hopefully that's visible enough. So if I pick the correct research group and the subscription, and let's call this IoT Bootcamp, and let's put that in West Europe. West Europe, West Europe, there. Cloud is fine, of course, and one streaming unit is totally fine as well. Storage, let it handle it on its own. You can also use external storage if you want to. And text, I won't be using them right now. So let's create this thing to see what it is. As a spoiler alert, a stream analytics job is the man in the middle. It's the one thing that takes an input and that gives output. And actually, it can take more than one inputs, and it can give more than one outputs. So if we take a quick look on that, right here, okay, right now we don't have a lot, but usually we are in the monitoring view when the job is up and running. And we can see its utilization, how much it is used, how many events we have been processing. The watermark delay is the number of seconds it takes between the input and the output. We also see the number of backlogged input events and errors. If there are any, hopefully we won't have any errors. So the first thing you do is you start with the inputs. I will not be covering those things today. The name speaks for themselves for most of them, but they are a bit too advanced for today's session. Let's just make it simple. So let's add an input, and here we can see what is already there, what we can read events from. Of course, we're going to use the IoT hub, but as you can see, we could even use the event hub, the usual event hub, or a blob storage, also an SQL database. And I see that they have the new Kafka input. That's good to know. Now let's give it a name. We can call it IoT hub. Now keep in mind that this name is only going to appear here. So in my opinion, you don't, unless you have multiple IoT hubs in your research group or in your solution, I would just call it IoT hub. But if you have many, then probably you want to give them separate names. Then all the other things I will just let them be. And this is because it has automatically identified the one IoT hub that I have. And the consumer group, I have not created more than that. Usually I do one consumer group for each device. Now in that specific project, again, the device is the sensor. In that specific project, we only have one, so I can use the default. Shared access policy name, of course, I'm going to leave that as is as well. And the endpoint here, we can have the operations monitoring or the messaging. And since we're going to pick messages, I am letting that be as well. Partition key, I don't have any right now. If you have, I think that we do use it in our real project, Carlo, the partition key, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
Yes, and we have multiple robots sending messages, and I think that as a partition key, we use the robot name to separate the events, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think so, yeah. Then the events realization format, JSON, UTF-8, everything looks fine. Now it will create the input, and it will also test to see if it can fetch any data. It might take a few seconds, that one. Successful connection test. Okay, that was good. That was good. Now we have the input. Let's jump directly to the output. And here is also a few nice things that we can stay for a couple of minutes. Now, imagine that you want to handle your events using various tools, and those tools are not directly integrated towards the IoT hub, or that you do not want to write code to pick the events from the IoT hub. Microsoft is offering you those integrations out of the box. You can use them directly, and I can say that Power BI as well as the Azure Data Explorer are very, very handy. And if you couldn't use them, then it would be a lot of work to put the data there. Now, also, there is a disadvantage with Power BI. In my experience, it is not very easy to manipulate the schema. So in Power BI, you have tables, and there you put data, and this data is defined in the query and by the query, and there are a few restrictions, and there are a few things that Power BI supports. But if you do it this way, sending data to Power BI from a stream analytics job, then you are going to be a little bit restricted about the things you can do. As you can see, you can also stream events to an Azure Functions, to Synapse Analytics, to Cosmos database, to an Event Hub, Kafka. And for today's session, we are going to show the PostgreSQL database. So let's call that as well PostgreSQL. I don't need to pick any fancy names. This only lives here. And now it has automatically identified the server that I have in my research group, which is nice. It has even found the name of the database that I have. And I have two of them. One is called test and the other is called Postgres. Now let's take a quick look in that database. I am not very sure, but yeah, I'm afraid I cannot zoom in right here. But this is the pgadmin tool, and this is my test database, schemas, public, and here is the database called test. And in there, I have one table called temperature, where I have a timestamp field called create dawn, and a double field called temperature. So it's there. I want to send the data, and I want it to look, as you can see here, the timestamp and the temperature. So let's call the, what was it called again? Temperatures. And the password, just let me get it real quick. That would be the one. Save. And it will also test the connection. Hopefully everything works fine. Can I test it? Yes, let's test it. Now it is possible that it's not very happy. Oh, it is. Okay. Oh, no, it wasn't that. We had another issue when we tried to get data from PostgreSQL into Grafana, and that was that PostgreSQL has a firewall, so Grafana Cloud has to be whitelisted in order to be able to serve data. And then we have the query. And what should it look like? Now here is where it gets a little bit complicated. Can we take it row for a row? It does remind usual SQL, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah, really.
Yeah, and what you can see here is that the default text has created, or not really created, but recommends some inputs and some outputs that do not actually exist. So if we choose the ones that do exist, and if we say select everything into what is the output called, GraphQL. Then look at that, even the IntelliSense. Oh, I see that I missed a G there. No worries. There, you see? Now even the IntelliSense of this tool understood that we are going to send our data there. And what if we check the input? Let's use the one that we have up there, the IoT hub. Then what is happening there? Now it started to synchronize. Remember that we have created a connection and that the connection worked. Now I want to refresh. Yeah, look at that. Now I have not saved the query yet, so it's not really up and running. Actually, it's not running at all. We have to activate the job for it to start running. But what it will look like is like that. The input, this is the input preview, is having a temperature field, a float field called temperature. And then all the others are system created fields. We have WITS IoT Hub, event enqueued UTC time, we have the partition ID, and we have the event processed UTC time as well. So as I said before, now we can see what the input looks like, but what would the output look like? Or what do we want it to look like? We want the timestamp to get here and the temperature to get here. So in the created on column and in the temperature column. So I have to change the query a little bit. There is a default, a thing that exists by default called system dot timestamp. And this is going to go in the created on field. And then, of course, I will take this field, the temperature field. That's why I'm writing it with a capital T, temperature. And this is going to go into the temperature column, which has a little t. Temperature. Something like that. Now, if I'm not of course, it should be system, not system. Something like that. Okay. So now nothing is underlined. Everything looks green. If we test this query, then we can see what output it would produce. And as you look, the timestamp is not the same. It's not one of those. It is its current timestamp, actually right now. So this is why it is the same. So every time the Stream Analytics job is going to get an event, it is going to create a row in the PostgreSQL database using the current timestamp and putting it in the created on column and the temperature that we get from the event, which, as you can see, is changing. And we'll put it in the temperature column. So let's save it now. And actually, the job is now ready to start. The only thing I have to do is to push start. Now, I will not do it because it takes ages to start. It can take a couple of minutes. But I have already one running, and I will show you what it looks like. We also have functions, as you can see here, and those are also in the middle. So why do they exist? And you get the answer when you push add function here. You can use a machine learning service, or you can get something from the machine learning studio. So the Stream Analytics job is an ideal one if you want to run machine learning tasks. So if you would like to perform, I don't know, if you have a classification project or if you want to perform anomaly detection or something like that, then those functions would come in really, really handy. So now this is created, and if I start it, it will be running. So let's go back to the one that I created earlier today. which actually is running, and see what it looks like. Now, as you can see, for 4 hours ago, when I started that, I had an error saying that the column temperature does not exist in that table. And this is a reminder, I'm sorry, that everything is case sensitive there. So you have to be very careful and very picky with the names you choose. So does it work? Well, as you can see in the monitoring, it really does. We have a number of input events and a number of output events, and we have a delay of about 10 seconds, maybe. So now, if everything is working, then we should be getting data in the PostgreSQL database. And I'm not going to show you how to create a PostgreSQL database. This is not a subject of today, but this is pretty much what it looks like. I don't worry a lot about showing you the server names. So we're going to delete everything later. But it's a very simple database, and it's very simple to connect to. You just have in the connection security to make sure that you have your IP addresses whitelisted. And as you can already see here, if I do a select star from temperatures, then I have 119 rows. So this thing is still working fine. Carlo, are you still sending the events? It should be
Yeah.
every fifth minute, right? Yeah, so 1500, 451, 951, 1451. It's every 5 minutes. So if we come back to here, so we have now made sure that up to here, everything works fine. Carlo is sending the events to the event hub, to the IoT hub. The stream analytics job is picking them in the input. It is generating the timestamp, and it is putting the data in the PostgreSQL database. Everything's fine. And as you can see, the timestamp is also, it's varying, so it's not, it works as expected also. So the last step is the Grafana dashboard. And here is what it looks like if I get at home. Now I created one in the cloud. I am in the free package. It gives me, I think, 14 days and a restricted number of resources to use and to test, which is just perfect for our scenario. And I have created a data source. Let me show you. I think it was administration, data sources. Yeah, right here. So it's really simple. You just go add a new data source and you pick PostgreSQL. You can also use SQL Server or MySQL or whatever you need. And this is what mine looks like. Again, very simple. It has a name, the host. I wrote the name of the database that I'm going to use. I gave it a username and password. I also had, of course, to whitelist the IP address, but everything worked smoothly. So if I go back to home and let's create a new dashboard by clicking on the plus. Oh, sorry, let me zoom in. I hope it's fine. Let's create a new dashboard. And now we have a visualization. Okay, so select data source. Now you have all those default ones, as well as the one that I created earlier. This is the one PostgreSQL. So it is selected down here, and I have this nice data source builder, which prompts me to select a table, and I will pick the table called temperatures. Now I have to select a column, and I have two ones. I have one called created on. Let's take that. Also, I have one called temperature. So the query would look like that. Select created on, comma, temperature from temperatures and limit by 50. Now, I don't like to be limited, so let's remove that. Now, are you ready to see if it works, Carlo?
Let's see.
If I run the query, whoa, not bad. Not bad at all. Now remember when when we said that it was sending dates a bit too often? This was when. So if I zoom in by clicking and dragging there, then you can see that we were taking the temperature a bit too often, maybe. And it is completely random, as you can see. So they happen when they happen. And then it was at this is good to see. So I guess it was 1550 that Carl changed it to a bit later. So let's see. Yeah. So now it's every 5 minutes. So from 50 to almost 50. Yeah, 55 there. And I can get over and see the temperature. I can go even later on and see the other temperatures. I can also zoom out, of course, to see for a larger period of time. And yeah, now if I only take apply, then this became a part of my dashboard. So what we have done now is that we have completed the chain. So we get the temperatures from the sensor, we send them in the Azure IoT hub, the Stream Analytics job is picking them, it is sending them in PostgreSQL, and from there Grafana is reading them and displaying them in a nice manner in a Grafana dashboard. We can make this thing bigger, so it looks nice and clear. We can zoom in, and yeah, I guess it only took us half time today to complete everything, Carlo.
Yeah, it went fast this time, but
Yeah,
it looks really good.
Yeah, I think that it is quite easy and quite handy. And okay, I might not do it as a private, as an individual, but for a company, these costs very, very little, and it takes very little effort to get things up and running. And I think that you would agree that this looks pretty nice. And you can also add a number of other things. Now, I'm not an expert here, but I think you can create any kind of visualizations. It's not just those kinds of panels. Do we have any questions? Not that I can see. Robin wrote. Robin Smolenburg. Nice to see you. The screen is visible just as the code. That's very, very nice. We also got a tip, Carlo, to use presentation mode in the IDE. Next time, I didn't really know that this thing existed, so we have to take
either,
a look at that for tomorrow's session. But otherwise, I think that we are done, and it only took us the half time that what we had calculated.
And if there is any questions after the live stream, it's just to contact us on LinkedIn or whatever, and we can answer as good as we can.
Yes, well said, Carlo. You can find both me and Carlo in LinkedIn, and feel free to send us a message. If you have any ideas about what you'd like to see, then feel free to do that. If you need help to present something on your own, then we're very happy to assist with that as well. And with that said, I think we should wish everybody a nice evening, and thanks for attending.
Hope to see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.